I think that the high performance part of it is like figuring out bandwidth a little bit. Physicians, just like thinking about where you're putting your energy. And I really think of performing well requires you to like perform well on multiple cylinders. And taking the time to figure out what is your strategic plan to perform well, right? And I do this work so I don't work with just physicians. I work with like people across literally every industry, oil and gas, tech, software, like politics, all the things. And it just means like really picking out a strategic plan for your own life, right? And so real estate can be a part of some people's lives if that's what they want, but like building out all the parameters that are important to you in life and then examining why you're not acting on one of them individually.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today's guest is Dr. Shideh Shafie, a physician, real estate investor, coach, and powerhouse of perspective. From medicine to mindset to money, she shows us what living life on your own terms really looks like. Here we go. Welcome to the show, Shideh. How does it feel to be Shideh today?
It feels pretty good.
Man, we had such a fun time before we come. Everybody should just be a guest on the show so we have that fun before time. It's called the virtual green room if you haven't been on a podcast before, but it's so fun just to meet and connect before the show even starts. So, boy, the listeners missed out on today's conversation, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
And we're going to keep it a secret, although the smile is still on my face about that conversation. So much to get into. And we're going to even talk about a little bit what we started chatting about before we came on the air here. But first of all, tell us a little bit about Shideh. Where are you at in your medical career, in your life in general? Tell us a little bit about it.
So I live in Rhode Island, and I'm obsessed with Rhode Island. It's a very bad financial decision to live in Rhode Island. Just for anyone who's hearing for wealth systems, it's not the state that you go to build your wealth in. You can build wealth in it, but it's just like a really lovely place to live, and we love living here. And so we chose it out of that reason. I'm a mom of twins. I'm an avid tennis player. I am still a practicing physician. I worked in the emergency medicine for decades, or a decade and a half, I should say. Did all the roles there, like academia, fellowship director, medical director, all those kinds of roles. Did all those things, and enjoyed those things while I was doing them. But then I started building a business, and the schedule of emergency medicine and building a business kind of didn't go hand in hand. And so I transitioned 2 years ago to working 2 days in a week in a clinic, which is FQHC model, which is like actually really lovely. What I didn't know, but I learned when I joined that job, is that it actually falls under federal tort reform, which if you are a real estate investor is a lovely thing to like an added perk that I didn't sort of think about. And through that job, I decided to do some lifestyle medicine training, also because I applied for a grant, got it, and I've been doing that work 2 days a week. I still love being a doctor at the right dose, which is 2 days a week for me. And then I spend the rest of my time coaching clients, and I manage my own real estate business as well. But mainly my coaching has nothing to do with real estate. I do performance coaching, sort of how to perform under high pressure, high stakes situations across industry, which I love. Like, it's such a fun job. I get to talk to really cool people doing interesting things and wanting to make their lives better and bigger and improve their lives.
Well, so to unpack that, we're going to have probably about a 14-part episode recording here. That was a lot. So many things in there. So first of all, you're building a business. What business? I feel like I heard a couple of them in there. What business were you building through that change?
The building of that business is my coaching business. Is like
Perfect.
I was invested in real estate, and I self-manage my real estate. I don't. And I have an LLC. And so like, I guess that was always a business there. I just don't think about building it because it is pretty organic for me, like that way. And it's it's a huge part of my revenue and net worth. So I probably shouldn't discount it as much as I do, but, it doesn't feel as much like I had to learn as much to do that. That has been something I've been doing for a long time, and I enjoy doing it. My dad did that, and he came here when he was 44 with like $10,000, and now he's in his 80s and has a very healthy retirement and speaks broken English. And like, I was like, oh well, if he's doing this, like I'll do this too. And I always like, I knew I was going to do that as a resident. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have a bunch of real estate. That's going to be my investment vehicle. And I remember my chairman being like, "You're going to be a real estate mogul?" I was like, "Yeah, isn't that what everybody does? They like go to work, they make some money, and then they invest. That's how they invest it." Because that's what I'd seen from my dad. And so that was just been something that's been part of it. But the business that I was building was my coaching business.
Interesting. And you mentioned something about a federal perk when it comes to maybe a tax vehicle about working 2 days.
No, malpractice vehicle. So one of the things that's hard about being a physician, and I know that like there's so many different ways to deal with the malpractice risk, but when you own big assets, and I know like there's all these LLCs that you can do in Wyoming and then hide them in Delaware and then flip them around backwards. And that is one thing. But when you work for a federal entity as a physician or in a state like Texas, there's the court reform. But for a federal entity, like any kind of medical malpractice thing goes through an administrative judge. So you don't actually go through a medical malpractice trial because I also know a lot about medical malpractice because I did some work in that area for a little while. And so it's not really about error necessarily. Sometimes it's just about like settlements, right? Especially certain things get high settlements. OBs are super heavily affected by that. And so are other physicians. I'm emergency medicine. 75% of ER doctors will get sued in their career. Wow. It just changes what the logistics of that look like. So if you go into a regular malpractice trial, like you are looking at 6 weeks time minimum of just like being in a courtroom unpaid and with these like massive settlements, and they can bring in a lot of states, they can bring your personal assets into that settlement. Whereas in the federal system, it's an administrative judge. Error was made. This is the value of this error. Error was not made. They decide, and then there's like a check written and it's done, and it's like a much smaller check. And you're suing the federal government, basically.
And that's because of the amount, the number of days that you're working, the breakdown.
No. It's the structure of a FQHC. It's the structure of working for a federal entity.
Okay. And now I'm tracking. I'm a little behind. Thank you for holding my hand.
Sorry.
Now I do appreciate the liability curtains in the corporate veils and flipping them upside down and turning them around. And man, that makes my head hurt because I'm thinking of all the different bank accounts, and it just takes 1 second, one slip, and you break your own corporate veil throughout all that stuff. So I always just say, man, keep it simple. Just because you end up being your worst enemy when you use consultants and other people to create these lavish systems. I mean, I'm sure they work great, but you've got to have the administrative support, the administrative staff.
I don't do that at all. Like all the stuff is.
So it's crazy, but it works. There are plenty of people do it. Everybody has their own cup of tea there, but so she's drinking a cup of tea. It was a perfect timing piece for the listeners out there, but we're not giving anybody legal advice. That's the one thing we're sure of here. We're here to talk about our experiences, and it sounds like you got some real estate experience. Where did that start? How did Pops bring that home to Shideh?
Okay, so my family's from Iran, so we left post-revolution. I was born in Iran. I came here when I was 6 years old, and my dad is an agronomist by training. So like fatty beans and how to make oil out of them, like soybeans. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's like what he did in his past life. My mom was a chemistry teacher. They come to America, like that sort of like Iran had a very complex relations with the US at that time. They still do have complex relations, but back then it was right after the Iran affair where they held all these people hostage. So like, there's a total like freeze of assets. So like you could not bring any money out. And we were moving to the United States. Oh, wow. And so they brought like, I think less than $10,000 out of the country with them. And my dad's first job in America was pumping gas at a gas station. He's 44. He like speaks some English, but like very little. And his degree means nothing in America. Like he can't work in his degree. And so that's what he starts doing. My mom was like raising us. My brother was like 9 months old when we first got here. So they have to like figure it out. And so after a year, my uncle was graduating from college in the US. He went, and we moved to Atlanta, which is where he was working. And he, my uncle said, come to Massachusetts, which is where my uncle lived, and let's start a business together. And he said, okay. And so that's what we did. Like, uproot your family, just like go, like, and they started a business in printing. How much did my dad know about printing? Absolutely zero. Like zero, 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 zero. Like nothing. Yeah, I don't know if he even knew how to use a copier. So they opened this printing business. They take turns, like they sleep. And back then, printers would get really hot. They have to deliver. Like the way they stayed competitive was like delivering things on a tighter timeline than like a Kinko's, right? Because a Kinko's, big corporation, their employees unengaged. These guys, like, they're eating what they kill, right? Like, so they are just like, we will make the deadlines meet. And so they would take turns sleeping over every other night in the store to like cool down the machines for 20 minutes so that they could restart them again so they could meet their deadlines. They do that. They grow that to 8 stores and a big retail place, which was amazing. But in that meantime, like my dad is like, has all these phrases, which I like now realize that are in my head. People would tell him like, oh, you know, if you want your kids to go to college, open a 529. And like, I mean, they didn't make any money at that point. They were like, put $50 a month in there. And I was like, she never go to school with $50 a month. Like, that's not going to pay for college. And like, he understood that. And he was like, and why am I going to give up my money to the bank for the bank to play around with it and make money, where I'm already sort of exposed to the market through, like, you know, you have to have a 401k and whatever other these accounts that are taxable accounts that are useful. So he's like, no. Any like little bit of money he would get, which would be like $20,000, $30,000 that he would like save up, he would just buy these rental properties. And we live in a town that has a lot of student housing. I lived in Amherst, Massachusetts, 5 colleges in the area. So he just like kept buying these like houses that did a lot of student housing. And so he built this little mini empire, and he bought some commercial properties and that kind of thing. And so now, you know, like it created a very nice little life for himself doing that, and for all of us in doing that. And I was like, oh, so like that's a really good vehicle. And so for me, my dad had always taught me that like when you put your money in the market, which we am obviously exposed to the market. My husband is in finance, by the way. My husband is like an investment banker. He's not an investment banker. He's a lawyer, but he works in investment banking. And so we are definitely exposed to the market and crypto and like capital ventures, all the things. We're exposed to all the things. But I was like, whenever you are doing those kinds of things, you are giving your money to somebody else to play with it to make more money. But when you buy real estate, you are taking other people's money, and then you are like the bank's money, and you are making it grow. So it's just like you want to be doing both, right? And you want to be doing it in a way that like makes sense for your financial landscape. And so for those of us who have like W-2 incomes that are big incomes, 100% put like your 401k, your what's the other one, 529, the HSAs, like I max all of that out. Like if you are going to bring down my tax liability, 100%, I'm going to put. But then after that, like market exposure, like you get to decide how you want to do it. And we, you know, we have different allocations, but it's also really funny because I love to run the numbers with my husband, who is like really understands finance like at another level. And I'm like, this is our ROI. And he's like, you're right. Like, this is a great, like, it's fun. Like, I find that stuff fun. So yeah. I learned that from my dad, and it's a really good lesson that like you get to decide who you want to give, like, and I know a lot of people love syndications. Like for me, I feel like I understand well enough how to analyze a deal, like a syndication that like I'm not thinking about, I'm not into, but a syndication with a few partners that I like really like, 100% I'm game. But like, so you got to decide where you're going to build knowledge, but like real estate is really not that hard. I think people get so overwhelmed by it, and I'm just like, it's really easy. It's not. It's a lot easier than med school.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Why do you think that is, that like a property is not as attractive to you unless you're in it with a couple or few people that you like?
I like to be part of the decision-making team. And so like, I don't love the idea of just like handing over my money to somebody else to do what they think needs to be done there, because I think I'm a good decision maker in that arena. Now, in other spaces, that might not be the case. It's just in this one arena, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. I understand the numbers. Like I can conceptualize around this area well. And so I like doing that.
So I hear that more of a GP than an LP, more of a general partner than a limited partner, because you have the chops to analyze the numbers and then to make a decision.
Yeah, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I enjoy it too.
And you
And
ended up
I,
as a physician and not accountant.
my mom ended up being the bookkeeper for all these businesses,
Oh
and
yeah.
you could call my mom and be like, what's the interest rate at the bank? And she could pull it. I mean, she always knows the interest rate everywhere, and she loves refinancing things. Like, I think like it's her side hustle in life, or her fun hobby is refinancing. Like, she's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's this thing, there's this way. And it's like, it's also one thing that is interesting. And I think one thing I reflect on, so my husband's family, super educated immigrants. So they like taught at Yale, like very, um, and one thing I noticed, like one of our investment partners, when we first bought my father-in-law, was like, well, who's going to tell you how to take care of this? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I mean, you don't have any education on this. And I was like, oh, like, that's not how this works. Like this, you just like do it. And that's something I think is really one thing that I realize is that education, higher education, I love higher education, right? Like I went to medical school. I love it. I have a fellowship training. I got a second training after coming out of school, like for a while. I love education, but sometimes education makes you feel like the only way to learn something is to get a degree in it. Like, I'm not going to buy a property until I have like I don't know what degree you would get to buy properties, but like that kind of a degree. And the truth is, like, what I learned from my dad is like, my dad knew nothing about printing, like, not one thing, barely spoke English, like, and just like, we're gonna figure this out. And then he figured it out and was like financially very successful. And also in life too, right? Like that's the other part of it. It's not just like how do you make it work for your life? And like his life is really successful. Like he's got, I mean, we all went to Japan together with my parents, my kids, like my husband, my niece, and my nieces, and like it was so much fun. And like I do think like that's the other part of like wealth and wealth building is that like not only do you need to build the wealth, you need to know how to use that wealth well, like in a way that like supports your life and living. And that I definitely have learned a lot from my parents. And sometimes I think when I look at people who are super educated, they think they have to have like some credential to allow them to do this. And then it's just like, no, you just got to do it and it'll come along. In the same way that like you finish medical school, right? And you have much more knowledge in your brain than when you're a resident. Like by the end of third year residency, like you forget all the like facts about biochemistry, histopathology, all that stuff. But it's the doing that allows you to learn how to do the work of being a doctor. And then when you become an attending, that's a whole, like the first year of attending hood, I did a lot of mentorship of people in their first year of attending hood. Like that's when they really learn what it is to be a doctor. Like it's very different. And it's from the doing, not from just like the reading. Like there's no credential. Obviously you need some credentials to be a doctor, but like in some parts of the work, some parts of work, it's not, there's no credential. You just like have to like educate yourself and then you just got to go do it. And there's no residency or fellowship for it.
Yeah, there's no real education to be a good wife or a good husband. You just got to do that.
Yeah.
Do
You just
that
got
as
to
well
learn it.
too. Oh, just do it. And so many things are so many times I've heard this of I've thought about getting into real estate. I want to get into real estate, but you know, I don't know enough or I haven't learned enough. I think when you break it down like that, what's stopping you, right? Find
If
the
my
right
dad
one.
can do it, you can.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Your dad
I
sounds.
mean,
Let's stop there, Shideh. Your dad sounds like an extraordinary man. To get from where y'all started to a new point here, and then to just the attitude and effort that's required to just do the doing, right? The attitude and effort, and raise the family and stick with it. I mean, he just sounds like a remarkable person.
yeah.
And so I don't want to overplay that at all. I mean, come on, he's got to
No, but
be.
it's the attitude.
Yeah.
It's not like like, to be honest, and I'll tell you, like, he was one of six children. His dad, like, we live in Iran, like, it's a quite patriarchal. Like, his dad died when he was young. His brother raised them. He, like, built his life again from, like, sort of like not an easy background into having, like, we had a nice life in Iran, but then, like, that kind of got wiped away after the revolution
Mm-hmm.
to come here. And then he built it again. And it's just sort of like, you just got to get back up and keep going. And not thinking that like everybody else knows something you don't know. Like you just gotta like you have to figure it out. Like life is figure outable, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And he is really that's the example for him is that like you can figure it out. And I love that like about everything. Like his other favorite line is I hate in America, everyone says that's not my business. He says everything is my business. I have to like you will ask, like you literally, like this guy drove us from the airport in Boston to
Uh-huh.
Rhode Island where we live. I mean, he asked him every question under the sun, and the guy loved him. Then the guy came into our house for lunch after driving, and like
Oh,
he
wow.
like, and then like he texted my mom. I was like, I love you guys. Like, but like my mom's like, you cannot ask people these questions. She's like, I need to know. I have him asking. He like asked him about his wife. He asked him about like all the things. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's an awesome place to be where you can just have those genuine conversations though and not be concerned about what somebody is feeling or thinking, and the other way is just connecting as a human being. And in that regard, Shideh, he is just doing. He is doing. He's doing in
yeah,
relationships, he's doing in the printing business, doing in real estate. And as a parent, he's done well as well. It looks, because now you're the one doing the doing, and you're
yeah.
teaching others in a high performance coaching scenario. So how does that high performance connect with real estate? Like, there's a lot of physicians out here who are listening to this show, and maybe in that category, I'm thinking about real estate, or maybe they've got the accidental rental, maybe they've done a syndication. What's holding them back from doing? How does that relate to the high performance that you are in medicine, but you're not in real estate?
Um, so I think that the high performance part of it is like figuring out bandwidth a little bit. Physicians, I mean, just like thinking about where you're putting your energy. And I really think of performing well requires you to like perform well on multiple cylinders. And taking the time to figure out what is your strategic plan to perform well, right? And I do this work like, so I don't work with just physicians. I work with like people across literally every industry, oil and gas, tech, software, like politics, all the things. And it just means like really picking out a strategic plan for your own life, right? And so real estate can be a part of some people's lives if that's what they want, but like building out all the parameters that are important to you in life and then examining why you're not acting on one of them individually. I think for physicians, a lot of it, when we talk about like burnout and all these things, is that like their whole life I joke around with my physician clients is like they have exercised one muscle a lot. It's like their right bicep is jacked. And that is the working as a doctor muscle. Like that is the one they know how to do. Like I know how to work hard as a doctor. And so the moment they are asked to pick up like even a 5 pound weight with their left hand, their tendency is to pass it over to that right hand to do the bicep curl with the right hand, right? Like they're going to use that muscle to solve everything. And that just like is not good for you. You need to develop your whole body. And that means developing your whole body means developing your relationships. Like I see physicians who really their only friends are other physicians. It's a limiting way to live. Or they're like friends from college that they made 1,000 years ago that they like have held on to, like make adult friendships. Your marriage and your relationship, like your marriage and your is like a massively important part of your life to tend to. Their physical health, like you fit all of those things in, and you breathe a little bit, and real estate is a vehicle for creating room for that, right? Like the problem I think with for a lot of physicians is that they need that kind of salary to be able to live the life that they want to live. And they think the only way to do that is like, I just got to work more. And so when you step back and figure it out a little bit more creatively, you give yourself room, and then you get to feed all of the parts your of your body, really, like of, and I do think about that holistic sort of approach. And that's the whole thing. And you can also overfeed the money muscle too. Like just let's be honest, I do see people get like just fixated on like, how can I fire as quickly as possible? Fire. Okay, like what's going to do with your whole, are we allowed to swear? Am I allowed to swear?
So it's the do and then ask, right?
Yes. Sorry.
That's all right. We'll have the team throw a little money sound in
Bleep.
there when you say it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. It's like, what are you going to do after when you retire? Like, what are you going to do all day long? Like, it sounds fun, but like I just went on vacation for 19 days in Japan, and it is fun. It was super fun because it was coming to an end. Like I think, I'm lifestyle medicine trained. It's not just hedonia, the joy of life, but eudaimonia, meaning in life, right? Like you want to have something with meaning, and money to some extent gives, like, earning money gives us some meaning, but we also want to do things that like matter to us. And as much as you might love your children, taking care of your children, raising them, yes, that does matter. Often we want something outside of that too, something bigger in this world. And so if you can create a relationship, like, and a lot of us went into medicine because it did give us meaning. And if you can create a relationship in medicine where you can continue to contribute in medicine in a way that feels meaningful and good to you, that's amazing. And I think often that comes with severing the paycheck and the need for a paycheck to the work you're doing.
Mhm.
Like that, I think there's like real magic sauce in that. Like, I work 2 days a week. If I lost my job in medicine because they were asking me to do something that didn't feel good to me, or if I decide to walk away from that, like I have that ability. And that is like such an empowered space to live from as a physician, because you get to be the doctor that you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Anyway.
I talk about that a lot. Being able to practice because you want to, not because you have to. Not a necessity in the lifestyle creep and all these other things that we hear a lot of people talking about that drive that. Who are you comparing yourself to? All of these things. And it made me think of something we were talking about earlier when you mentioned enjoying freedom versus creating a trap. And that idea of being able to have these mechanisms or pieces behind us that open up the opportunity where we're living in creativity as opposed to just survival. And that trap mode for me is survival. And if you think of how your brain is limited when you're in survival mode, based on how many patients, I've got to see more patients, I've got to do this, I've got this coming up, based off of that versus you just having 2 days a week and you're probably walking through the halls like floating, probably
Yeah, it's
dropping
like
the
so
F-bomb
fun.
everywhere in the hall. Fire me, do it. No, not that bad, I'm sure. But no,
No, I have parameters though on which I will leave. Like
yeah.
for me, my parameter is if I like had a time off that I want to take off to do something and they said no, and like, oh, okay, it's time to leave this job. Like
Yep.
I like being a doctor. I love taking care of patients. I love babies. Like I see a lot of babies. I love that stuff. It's so fun. And like,
Yes.
I also like have time to like do whatever it is that I want to do. And
All right. Now, Shideh just dropped some serious gems on mindset, wealth building, and intentional living. Now, we're going to split this up into 2 parts. So in part 2, we dive even deeper into the freedom trap and how physicians can actually do less and live more. If you want to find out more about Shideh before the next episode is released, find her on her website. That's ShidehShafie.com. It's in the description, ShidehShafie.com. Sound like a robot reading that off. It's in the show description, ShidehShafie.com. You can find her on LinkedIn as well, too. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Mogul, MD.